Okay, episode 14. Here we go. This is going to be about a really special mask that just landed in the collection. And I'm going to show two masks, okay? First is a pretty rare mask known as the 1977 Bloody Werewolf. Known as the 1977 Bloody Werewolf by Dompo Studios. This is a pretty rare one. I used to have one of the nicest copies I've ever seen, and like a fool, I let it go years ago. And but I just got another one back this year, and so to my knowledge, I don't think too many of these were made, and it looks like it's similar to other Don Post werewolves of the 70s. It's got blood in the mouth, though. And it's just a subtle addition of blood, which you'll see in a minute, that makes it the Bloody Werewolf. And out of all the collectors I know, I probably only know of like 3 copies of this mask, maybe 4. This mask was sculpted by Bob Short because there was actually another Bloody Werewolf that was before this one, and it was only made at Dompo Studios for 2 months before Universal stepped in and gave it the axe. One was made that was only produced for about 1 month, maybe 2 months tops, and Universal stepped in and gave it the axe. They said, "This looks too much like our werewolf. You must stop production at Dompo Studios." That's when Bob Short came up with this version here, as you can see, which he created this one based off of the 1956 Stephen Rich werewolf, and had to make it a little different, of course, because Universal definitely did not like the first version Don Post made and made them stop because it was too much like their werewolf. So this mask, as you can see, is really awesome. I always loved it. It's got nice reddish hair to it. It's like a nice full head of hair. Beautiful looking werewolf. Has a black nose, and if you look closely, you see the blood in there. See a little bit just on the bottom of the mouth and the top. And this was the Bloody Werewolf. Okay, it's not like a crazy bloody version that you'd see today, but it's just a little touch of blood, and made it that rare 77 Bloody Werewolf. So this is a very rare mask. Since I sold mine, it took me years to find another copy. I think I saw one out there that was not so great, but then this one was offered to me by a friend of mine. Had a little issue on the bridge of the nose, but I'm like, man, I can live with it because I miss my old copy so much, and I cannot believe I sold it. I'm probably going to reach out to the guy I sold it to, offer him a ton of money for it and this copy back, and see if he'll do a trade. Because he wanted it because he had the mask as a kid, and it meant so much to him. I said, man, I'll do it. And this was years ago. This is probably 10 years ago or 12 years ago. And I sold him this mask, and he was so grateful, and I was happy about the whole deal. But of course I missed my mask, you know. And now I'm like, man, it was like the nicest Bloody Werewolf I've ever seen to exist. I know I say that a lot, the nicest to exist, but if I say that, I mean it. There's guys out there like, oh, he just says that all the time. Nicest to exist, the only one to exist. Yeah, I mean it. Look at this, because the werewolf I'm about to show you, when it comes to rare Don Post masks, this one tops the list, okay? This mask, this werewolf I'm going to show you, is so rare. I don't think many people even know it exists. It is... What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing? Crazy? No, leave him alone. You're not related. I know. You gotta get on camera again, huh? So like I was saying, the mask was only produced for about 1 month, maybe 2 tops, and it was never cataloged by Don Post Studios. Never cataloged. Unless people really know their Don Post mask history, they wouldn't know this mask exists. And I'm going to unveil it right now. This thing has sat in in my friend's collection probably since the late 70s or early 80s. And it sat there untouched for years and years, just sitting. And it's gorgeous. Beautiful condition. However, being the fussy collector my friend was, he liked to customize his masks a lot back in the 80s, you know, and they were all beautiful with their own little touches. However, he had Robert Cathy, paint over the blood on the bloody version of this werewolf. And this is a lot bloodier than the one I just showed you. It's a cool werewolf. One of the coolest werewolves I've ever seen. And it was originally bought by another friend of mine when it came out at the studio in '77. My other buddy was a young kid when he would go to Don Post, like in the 60s. Little kid. As he grew up, he was working there, hanging out there. So as soon as something like this came out, if it was only there for 1 month, he got his hands on it. And he's the one that sold it to my other friend, where it literally sat for decades, and now it's here. And I cannot believe it's here. And I'm going to show it to you guys, because I guarantee you none of you have ever seen this mask. Here we go. Let me get it. And the cool thing is, my friend that originally bought this from Post, they probably gave it to him back then because they had to stop production. He has an original photo of it in his collection from back in the day with the blood on it. And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. All right, guys, I'm going to show you the rarest Don Post Wolfman there is. And I'm telling you, the guys, all the Don Post guys I know probably have never seen this, except for a couple of the old schoolers that knew my friend that had it from back in the day. But here we go. I'm going to show you the original bloody werewolf. And the cool thing is, and it was bought originally with these hands because they were so close in hair color. These are the original 70s hands that I've had these already from my friend. He sold me the hands, and he said later you'll get the mask someday, but for now he sold me those hands, and I finally reunited it with the mask. So if you look closely here, you can see a scar on the nose. Can you see that? There's a scar sculpted in. And take a look at this now from this angle right here. I'm going to show you an old school 70s photo of this exact set with the blood on it. Check this out. Isn't that cool that that photo still exists? It's amazing, because now you probably guessed what I'm going to do. I'm going to restore this thing back to the way it's supposed to be. Okay. I'm going to put the blood in the exact spots it was on that original, like it was in that original photo. I thought about it good and hard. I mean, it was already painted over in the 80s. There's no way to get that off and make it look perfect. You know, the brown, they matched it up perfect years ago. Covered the blood. I'm putting the blood back on. I'm making it look vintage. I'm going to really carefully apply the blood where it should go, so it'll look like it did when it left Don Post in the 70s, in 1977. In fact, let's carefully lay this guy down here. In fact, if you look closely, you can still see remnants of that blood on the mouth right there. See that? In the corner of that mouth, you'll see some blood there. And up here by the scar, you can see a little bit in the hair, like a little tiny remnant of the blood there. And guess what? Guess what's the best part of all, everybody? It's on a foam head, and it won't come off. So imagine that. I'm crazy, right? So it's got a little bit of folding on the bottom rim of the mask, you know, because over time it was probably touching the shelf it was sitting on, and it just starts wrinkling. See the wrinkles there? So I'm gonna slowly try. Number one, I'm gonna do the heat process on it, and I'm gonna video that for you guys. I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about with this heat thing I do. So number one, I'm gonna try to, so basically the top of the head is stuck to that styrofoam wig head inside, and it's fused to it. So all of you guys that think I'm nuts about the styrofoam, this is what happens when a mask can sit on a styrofoam head for decades and decades. And here we have one of the rarest Don Post masks of all time, and it's fused to a damn styrofoam head. So I'm hoping, I'm gonna try to pull the hair up and really take a good look at the mask underneath. But I'm thinking, I'm not pull it off, but I'm gonna like lift it and look down there. I'm hoping with heat I can warm up the top of his head and just see if it may come loose from that wig head underneath. You know, it's a long shot, you know, who knows if it'll work. But if it does not, you know, there's a lot of hollowness inside here still. Like this wig head is not touching all the rest of this mask. I'm probably going to take very careful time at cutting away and removing as much of that styrofoam head out of there as possible. I can do it with a little heating rod I have for cutting styrofoam. It sucks. It's like one of the worst things ever because you're paranoid. You know, you do everything possible to, as precautions, to not cut through the mask. You know, I'll put things down in there to make sure I don't touch the latex rubber. And I'm going to try to remove as much of that wig head as possible out of there. And I was telling my friend, if I can do this, and let's just say part of it is still stuck to the top of that head, we're probably going to foam fill it with the piece up in there and just leave it up in there, and it'll be buried in foam. You know, it's styrofoam, but I don't think it's going to rot it away anymore or anything like that. It's just fused to it, which is, I can't stand that. I've had a dozen or more old 60s and 70s things come into this collection like that, and they're fused to styrofoam heads. So if you're going to use styro heads, put plastic bags over them first, put bags over the, you know, inside the mask, then put it on a styro head. Do not leave it on there, you know, with contact like that. So man, this is one of the ultimate Wolfman I've ever had. You know, this and that calendar one I showed you are just spectacular. But cool thing in that original 70s photo is you can see it without these eyes. When you cover up those eye inserts, you can really get a better appreciation for the sculpt, you know. Those really distract, and they're cool, but they kind of distract from the sculpture and everything and the way this mask looked when it left the factory, if you know what I mean. So, you know, I'm leaving them in there. They're vintage, and I think it's cool, but man, this mask, I've got to put the blood back on it. It's one of the rarest masks, one of the rarest Wolfman of all time, Wolfman, and it is hands down one of the rarest Don Post masks out of the 1970s. Truly amazing that, you know, it sat all these years like that and just didn't move. You know, it's awesome. My friend really took care of his things. He loved his masks so much. They were a big part of his life. And every one of them was displayed beautifully. And I can tell you what, it's incredible. So I'm going to show you both werewolves side by side because I don't think it's ever been done. Nobody's ever seen these two side by side. So let me do that for you guys. So check it out. That is a really rare sight. Man, that's crazy. I've got the hands in front because that wig head is making this guy lean forward slightly. You know what I mean? And I don't want him going whoops, shattering like Humpty Dumpty on my freaking floor. I will go insane if that happens. So take a good look, because I guarantee you, I guarantee nobody in the hobby has seen this. I mean, maybe, but this is truly an awesome rare sight. And I couldn't wait to show you guys this Wolfman, because it's so cool. And I'm going to do my best at restoring it the way it should be, and getting it off that damn wig head, and getting it foam filled so it will be, you know, protected even more. Thank God it's in great shape, though. I mean, it's truly gorgeous. What an awesome addition to the collection. So, thank you for watching this episode, and who knows what we'll do tomorrow for 15. I'll see you guys tomorrow.